Welcome to Bobcat Breakdown. This week we're recapping the men's and women's soccer seasons.
And we'll take a look at the hockey team's upcoming conference play. All that and more now on Bobcat Breakdown.
The women's soccer team finished up their season last week against Siena. The Bobcats lost at home 2-0. They just missed out on making the playoffs, finishing 7th in the MAAC. So Pat, what grade would you give the team this season?
I have to give them a B+. I mean, they turned the season around from last year. I mean, they had coming back from a straw last season. I would give them an A-, but they didn't make the playoffs. And I think last game has a real effect on that. They had the chance. They needed a tie. All they needed was the tie, and they couldn't get it. And I blame Coach Dave Clark for that. He took out DeBonis when he needed her out in there to stop play. She made great defensive plays in the box there, clearing the ball out and not letting defenders score. But then they took her out, and what happens? They score 1-0. And then second half, you think, okay, they're just giving her a rest. No problem at all. But they didn't put her back in the second half until it was too late when they were down 2 goals. And you can't come back from that, honestly.
Yeah, well, I'm going to give them an A-, and this is why. They had 4 wins this year. They had 5 in the previous 2 years combined. They almost tied the same record of wins that they've had in 2 years in just this 1 year. That, plus they got players like Gill, Fontaine, and Gargan all coming back next year. So I am giving them an A- a little bit because there's a lot of positivity there, a lot of things to build forward. 13 freshmen, a lot of them started. Gill had multiple overtime game-winning goals this year.
She had 5 game-winning goals this year.
5 game-winning goals
this year.
As a freshman, a 16-year-old Canadian international freshman had 5 game-winning goals on this team. They're only going to grow with each other. They are losing Grotsky, their senior goaltender, but unless it's like the top flight level of soccer, I don't think women's goalies, they're kind of interchangeable. It's not going to be that big of a loss.
Yeah.
So what should we expect from the team next year?
Next year, I would expect a lot more leadership out of players like Jess Fontaine, Joanne Proctor, and even Caroline DeBonis. Proctor and DeBonis are the 2 top defenders. They guard those lines really well and don't let the other team get up there and
DeBonis closes
exactly.
fast. She's got quick closing speed.
Exactly, and Proctor plays a type of defense where she'll give you that line, but if you try to go out to the middle, she won't give it to you. She plays a very close defense, and I like that about her, and it's a good defensive mindset to have. And those 2 girls are going to be the leadership role for that team next year.
I agree, but I think it's mainly going to be driven by the offense, mainly because we saw it this year, and they're only going to have another year to get players like Pelletier, freshmen who are kind of coming off the bench, a little more involved. Crusoe's going to be going into a senior year, things like that. So I do expect them not only to make the playoffs next year, but to compete for that MAAC championship. Honestly, because they made such a big jump from where they were last year, where they were bottom 3 in the MAAC. Didn't look like there was a lot of hope to this year. They were a tie away from making the playoffs. That's a huge jump already. I expect them to jump a little bit higher next year.
I agree with that, but I believe that it's the defense that'll bring it to them because they already have the offensive pieces there with Gill and Fontaine. I mean, Gill, you look at her, she's always pestering the defenders and she's getting plays going. She sets up most of their goals. It's going to be really a focus on defense because they will help the offense. As we said before, defense wins championships. This defense can win one as well.
Yeah, I agree in that.
Men's soccer finished their season Saturday against Ryder. They traveled to Disney to compete in the MAAC tournament. James, how far do you see this team going in the tournament?
Not very far at all. They had 1 win all year. 1-10-6 was their record. They haven't shown me anything that they're going to go far at all. They have been known for being a really strong defensive team, but even their defensive system is getting a lot of breakdowns this year. And at least when they were in the past, when they were really strong defensively, they would take chances early on in games. They would try to push to go for those long shot offensive chances, try and find a rhythm and try and find the holes in the opposing team's defense. They haven't done that at all. I've seen so many times from games this year where they'll have a good 10 feet of space in front of them to move the ball forward when they have possession. And the midfielders and their forwards will just turn around and pass it, when they're being uncontested, they'll pass it back to the defense. And they'll just regroup, recycle consistently without being forced to, in a sense. Like they should be putting more of a push and pressure into trying to create goals and create chances, mainly because their defense hasn't been that great.
Yeah, and you mentioned their defense not being that great, and it leads to their goalie, Henry, who is faced so many shots, as you said, because the defense cannot, get back. They can't do anything to help him out. And he has a save percentage this year of 72%, but that's good, but he plays a very aggressive style. And that could hurt him too, because he plays too much out, leads the offense to come by and sneak a goal by you. And with this team who can't produce anything offensively, you cannot play that style. You got to play a more kind of like conservative style, if you want to say. And he doesn't do that for them, And it's tough. It's very tough.
But you talk about them not getting any chances. They're only scoring goals 6% of the time on their shots. The shots that they're getting on net.
No, absolutely.
They're shooting at .062 shot percentage. They've only had 11 goals all year. They've been outscored by the teams they're playing 24-11.
James, they have one goal in the last 5 games. They have one goal in the 5 games. You can't, if you're going to win soccer games, you cannot have one goal in 5 games. I'm sorry. You can tie as many games as you want, but that's not going to get you far.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. How far do they have to go in the tournament? We just said that we don't expect them to go far, but let's say they do make a run. How far do they have to go to salvage this kind of bummer of a year so far?
I mean, you can say go far, like, hey, they have to win the championship, but I would say win second round. Get decent to where you play a team who's a contender, and if you put a good fight up against them, then your season is salvageable.
I'm going to say farther than you do, personally. I mean, they're going to Disney this year. Every team makes the tournament. That's mainly why they're there in the first place. They would not make the tournament at all. I haven't even gotten close if it wasn't for the fact that everyone made the tournament this year. We came into this year expecting a lot from this team, mainly because they won the MAAC a couple years ago. They almost won the MAAC last year. They made the tournament, almost was a very close game in the semis, just couldn't get into that championship game. We all came in expecting them to compete for the championship this year, and they've only had one win. One win. That's to salvage this year. They got to at least get close to meeting the expectations that I had for them before the season started, and that's to get to either the quarters or the semis, if not the championship match. Like, they have to make a big run. I just don't see them doing it.
I don't see them making a big run, but they have to get to, as you said before, at least the quarterfinals. I don't see them getting to the semifinals. I absolutely do not see them getting to the championship. So getting to the quarterfinals and putting up a good fight against whoever they play that game makes the season at least somewhat salvageable.
Okay. And coming up after the break, we're going to talk some hockey. The women's team opened up conference play, and we'll look ahead to next week when the men do the same. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Welcome to A Sheer Sensation, North Haven's premier cosmetology service, located at 140 Washington Avenue, minutes from Hamden. We offer an array of services, from basic cuts and colors to lash extensions and formaldehyde-free keratin treatments. We also provide hair chalk and styling for men. When you spend $60, your Q card will get you 10% off. Call us at 203-239-6477 to make your next appointment at A Sheer Sensation.
My name is Doug Thoreau. For nearly 90 years, 3 generations of my family have been providing the highest quality repair service. Insurance companies will refer car owners to lesser quality shops to save money. At Thoreau Auto Body, we provide the highest quality repairs with a lifetime guarantee to maintain the safety and value of your car. That's the quality you deserve. Thoreau Auto Body, our best work goes unnoticed.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike's sub right now.
Come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken and cheese for just over $4. giant cheesesteak subs, and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. QCash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney, here at Ray and Mike's.
The women's hockey team kicked off conference play over the weekend. The Bobcats won Friday at Brown 4-0, holding Brown to just 3 shots on goal for the game. They then traveled to play Yale on Saturday. The Bobcats lost to the Bulldogs 4-3. Pat, what stood out to you most this weekend?
The 4 goals by Sydney Rossman. She had 4 goals on 9 shots. After your performance the past games where you've been shut down and making yourself known as a contender, you go out and have that performance, that's a disgrace. You cannot have that happen if you want to call yourself a number 5 team in the nation. You just cannot. And they had games where they did win big. They beat Yale here 6-3. We've seen them do it, but then they got lackadaisical, and they're like, we're going to win this game. And Yale took it to them, and they said, you know, we're going to outdo you. And they did. They 4-3, and it's ridiculous. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, the weekend before, it was a non-conference game, but Yale came to Quinnipiac to play, and I saw the Yale defense attack some of Quinnipiac's defenders. Some Quinnipiac defenders were kind of caught back on their heels a few times, gave up 3 goals in that game. They ended up winning 6-3 because they have the offense to do it. Sydney Rossman should not be giving up 4 goals on 9
Absolutely
shots
not.
ever.
Yes.
And she only had 3 shots on goal in the Brown game. So essentially she gave up 4 goals and 11 shots on goal for the whole weekend, if you want to think of it that way. That when your defense is playing strong enough that you're only getting 9 shots on goal against you, I don't care how good those chances are. You got to at least save enough to only keep your team ahead, hold the other team to 1 goal or 0 goals. I know sometimes there's absolute snipes that you can't save, but
Absolutely.
But there's situation. There was a goal in that first Yale game I talked about the previous weekend that we saw. Yipchuk was coming in for Yale, deked around 3 Quinnipiac defenders, and all Rossman had to do was stand tall, come out a little bit, take away the angle. She poke checked. You just saw her deke around 3 defenders. Why are you thinking that your poke check's going to get the puck off her stick? Then she just put it 5-0 once she did that. Just gave her the net.
She needs to stand tall and just stay there. She just needs to stay in there and just defend the puck. And I said it before, she just wasn't there this weekend. And I think that really hurt them because when you save the puck, you're giving your offense chances to score. And if you're letting goals in, it lowers momentum and it lowers that, drive of the team to get anything going. And as a goaltender, you need to step up and take a leadership role from that, and she did not do it this weekend.
Yeah, and well, moving on, coming in this weekend, we expected a sweep.
We did.
Especially because they are ranked number 5. They have been showing a lot of good things offensively. Was this number 5 ranking legitimate for them?
Oh, no, not at all. I do not agree with this number 5 ranking, strictly because I think the people who made the polls were only looking at the volume of their wins, 6-3, 5-1, 4-1. They didn't look at the actual game itself, and that hurt them in the rankings because now people see number 5 and they're getting beat by Yale. They're going to be like, oh, that's not, it's going to create controversy. And people will be like, well, why do they have them ranked at 5? And I think that's a huge thing.
I think it is legitimate. Sydney Rossman this is her first year as the starter, the person. So she's got to get her skates underneath her a little bit. She needs to get used to the pace and flow of this game. So TT Cianfrano and Sam Miskevich have combined for 25 points between just the 2 of them this year. They've been on the same line. This is a sophomore and a freshman, 2 highly regarded players coming into the program. That's not even getting to Costa, Woods, Turner, Connery. You got a lot of offensive firepower there, and the defense is still holding teams like Yale, which has a pretty good offense. For the reason Yale's not as highly ranked or is not as good as they are is because they don't really have the defensive system set up that can really hold teams and hold them down from taking too many shots on goal. Yale has a pretty good offense, and you held them to 9. They held them to 9 shots on goal. Rossman's got to be better. If Rossman's better, we would be and made the save she needed to make over the weekend. We wouldn't be sitting here talking about how number 5 isn't legitimate. In your opinion, I think it is legitimate. Rossman just needs to play better, and it'll make the team legitimate as a whole because the rest of the team is there.
Well, they haven't played anyone legitimate yet. I saw here that their next legitimate contender that they play is Clarkson, and they're number 4 in the nation, and they play them on November 20th. So
Yeah, Clarkson and Harvard and Quinnipiac, the big hitters in the ACAC. That's for sure.
men's hockey had the weekend off, but next weekend starts conference play. They face off against Colgate and Cordell. James, does the weekend off help them or hurt them?
I think it helps the team as a whole. It allows players like Tim Clifton to get healthy, get back in the roster. I know Tavener came back and he missed a lot of the beginning of the year. He just hasn't looked like himself. He hasn't had that acceleration, that burst in the first few steps that we saw from him a lot of last year. But I think it's going to hurt Gartzig especially. Goalies are very, streaky, especially Gartzig. He has a tendency to be streaky. He just played the weekend of his life against St. Cloud last weekend.
Yeah.
Had an unbelievable weekend, and then 2 weeks off. That could just make him go cold. If they're cold in net and he's giving up easy goals with a weak glove hand next weekend because he just got rusty over 2 weeks, that's not helping the team. It doesn't matter how explosive their offense is.
I disagree with you and say that it does help Gartzig because you got a week. You just came off, as you said, a weekend of his career, going into 2 weeks off. I think that's going to help because it's going to make him work hard in practice, and he knows he has to work hard at this point. He knows that goalies can be streaky. He does not want to be that. He wants to continue this work that he's been doing and continue that onto the season because right now they're 6-0. They are a very hot team right now. But to keep that going, they need to put the work in practice. And Gartzig can do that because if he takes a leadership role, if you would like to say.
Okay, well, looking ahead to their first conference weekend this week, what do you think has been their biggest strength that you've seen from them so far this year?
Their biggest strength has been their penalty kill, honestly. They just, anytime the opponent tries to get anything going, they shut them down. They clear the puck right away. They do not let anything go by them. They really guard the lines, as you could say, really, nicely. And they've been 100% the whole time. Okay,
well, I'm going to say their defense more as a whole. The penalty kill has been a pretty strong penalty kill for the last few years, for a while now. And the defense has definitely been solidified by freshman Prisky. Chase Prisky, who won the Rookie of the Year for Rookie of the Week, for the ECAC last week for his play in the St. Cloud week, in the main week. That he has really kind of helped solidify and give their defense a lot of good, strong depth. And Connor Clifton has completely changed his game, become the #1 defenseman that they've been wanting to be for the last couple of years. He's really kind of reined himself in a way. He's realized, I don't need to go and just hit everybody as much as I can in this one shift. I can take a guy's number, and next time I'm on the ice with him, then I'll destroy him when it's the right play. He's putting the stick to the stick, body to the body. The defense has just gotten a lot deeper this year. So, on the other hand, what do you think their biggest weakness has been so far?
Their biggest weakness is definitely their after whistle kind of play of fighting, as you would like to say. Their fighting has been really kind of hurting them. I mean, once they do that, it leads to penalties, and then it leads just to penalties that they don't need as a team. And you want to have full strength. That's where they're the best. And if you're going to have guys go off the ice for stupid reasons, you can't have that if you're going to be a contending team.
I want to agree with you on that, but mainly it's because I don't have many other things that are negative so far to talk about with this team. They've had such a strong start to the year. The offense has looked like a really deep, explosive offense. St. Denis got 4 goals last weekend. Aldworth looks strong as a freshman. There's a lot of depth in that offense. If they just need to kind of rein themselves in sometimes, not put themselves on the penalty kill. One of the reasons they do have such a good penalty kill is because they get in the box a lot. They were top 5 in penalties last year and top 5 in penalty minutes. They need to rein that in a little bit.
When we come back, we will take a look at field hockey as they head into the playoffs and rugby's big win over Army. Of course, we'll close out the show with our Step Up and Sit Down Players of the Week. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to Joya Spa and Salon in Hamden. Whether you want a new look or the perfect wedding day hair, come to us for complete hair and nail care, cuts, styles, updos, extensions, and beautiful dimensional hair color, as well as manis and pedis, acrylics, gels, and shellac. Treat yourself to a facial, a peel, or microdermabrasion. Relax with a variety of massage techniques, including Swedish and hot stone massage. Joya Spa and Salon. Call today.
I could really go for a Ray and Mike sub right now.
Come to Ray and Mike's and try our Philly chicken and cheese for just over $4. Giant cheesesteak subs and mouth-watering boar's head sandwiches for as low as $4.75. QCash accepted just a mile down the road on Whitney, here at Ray and Mike's.
Welcome to A Sheer Sensation, North Haven's premier cosmetology service, located at 140 Washington Avenue, minutes from Hamden. We offer an array of services from basic cuts and colors to lash extensions and formaldehyde-free keratin treatments. We also provide hair chalk and styling for men. When you spend $60, your Q card will get you 10% off. Call us at 203-239-6477 to make your next appointment at A Sheer Sensation.
Heading into the weekend, the field hockey team had a chance to host the MAAC tournament. To host, the Bobcats would need to win their game against Fairfield on Saturday, and the Monmouth Hawks would need to lose both their contests against Siena and Bryant. Quinnipiac won 4-5 in overtime to do their part, but defending champions Monmouth won at Bryant 2-0. Monmouth will host the tournament for the second straight year. Bobcats are expected to be the second seed and will play the third seed Rider, and the semifinals will be played at Monmouth's So Sweet a Cat Field on November 6th. Pat, what do you expect from this matchup against Rider?
I expect a high offensive tempo for the Bobcats. Players like Savannah Riley and Felicia Costanzo, those are your goalies. You're going to rely mostly on them. And we've seen this in the past. You know, their offense is what helps them win. And and other people like Megan McCullough and Michelle Federico, they need to step up as well and get this offense going, because the defense is there, but the offense really needs to step it up.
I really expect the Bobcats to take over this game, honestly. They're not playing at Rider. One of the reasons that they struggle so much and have such a bad record against Rider overall is when they go to Rider, Rider has a different turf. It's a more field grass turf. Talking with coaches and players, they hate playing on that turf. It slows the game down. Rider practices on it. They plays on it. That's what they're used to. Rider is not really fully accustomed to Monmouth's field, which is more similar to Quinnipiac's field, more of a carpet turf. It's going to be a faster game, more offensive-paced game. Megan Conboy is going to shut Rider down, because that's what she does in conference games. She steps up and she just plays out of her mind in conference games, particularly Rider games, because that is a big rival for them. So I expect Quinnipiac to fully come out and take advantage of the fact that they know what surface they're playing on against Rider.
They've already beat Rider this year on the road, so we can see that they know how to win there, and they can do it. They have the ability to do it this coming matchup.
Okay, and hypothetically, let's just say they get past Rider as I expect them to, as you expect them to, get to the championship game. Between Monmouth and I believe it's Siena who's going to be the 4th seed, what would be the better matchup, do you think, for that?
I think Siena. I think that Siena, we can beat Siena over Monmouth. Our offense can score against them. Our defense can hold them, and we are a higher seed than them. We will have them here. It's our turf, and we can do it.
I want to see the Monmouth matchup just because I think that would be an unbelievable game, but I do think the better matchup for them would be Siena. They've beaten Siena this year. Monmouth is probably right up there with Quinnipiac. They're like neck and neck. That's probably going to be the matchup we're going to see. And I want to see it. Yeah, why would the Bobcats want to go up against anyone other than the defending champions on their turf to get that championship? They won a couple years ago. Monmouth won last year. I would really want to see the matchup of the most two recent champions in the MAAC to face off. That plus there's a lot of scoring depth there. In field hockey, they got Megan McCullough, Savannah Riley, and Costanzo all have 5+ goals. Dana Barlow got 2 today to get to 5 on the season. Angie King, who's leading all of NCAA in defensive saves, is also at 5 goals. And that's a lot of scoring depth. A lot of scoring depth on that team. And Monmouth is kind of built similarly. I think that would be a very good matchup to watch.
Rugby won against Army on Saturday. The win improves their record 7-2 heading into their season finale against Westchester. James, what does this win say for this team?
I think it says that they have a lot of pride in their team because they did lose in a kind of devastating fashion earlier this year to Army. They were up and gave up 22 unanswered points to lose the game, I think 29-26. But what it also says is that this offense runs completely through Alona Marr. Alona Marr got 22 tries last year for national champion in Norwich, but she got the assists on Miles and Roscoff's tries this weekend against Army. It runs completely through her. When she's going, Quinnipiac is going. That's just the way it's going to be with this rugby team.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. Alona Marr is the catalyst of this offense, and you saw her when she has ball. She not only goes for the tries, but she dishes it off to players like Maggie Miles, and gets them going as well. Emily Robskoff, who's been a huge component to this offense, and we saw on Saturday they dominated Army. They really did. The first half, they made it their game, and it was at home. They said, we're going to win this game on our turf, and yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on to our games of the week. Pat, what game do you think is the biggest, has the biggest intrigue this week?
The biggest game to me has to be between men's ice hockey and Cornell. In the past, there's been a lot of bad blood between these teams. Mike Schaefer, head coach of Cornell, had called out Rand Pecknell for his coaching style in the past. There's been a lot of beef between these two teams before. It's going to be a very chippy game, and I'm excited to watch it, James.
Okay, well, I might be streaming that one on my phone, actually, when I'm at the Quinnipiac women's hockey team when they play Cornell this week. Cornell and Quinnipiac women's ice hockey, 4 of the last 6 games have been decided by 1 goal. The most recent one, Quinnipiac lost in overtime, 1-0, I believe, at Quinnipiac. They don't often lose it on home ice. That's not really kind of their forte. There's a lot of good, close contests between those teams. They both are very defensively structured teams. This is going to be a big test for Sydney Rossman, especially after the weekend she just had. She needs to step up and help carry her team in these closely contested games like this if they're going to go anywhere. And now, who's your sit-down player personally for you this week?
My sit-down player has to be Sydney Rossman. I mean, she cannot continue to play the way she did at Yale and have this Bobcat team be a legit top contender in the nation. She's going to have to step up her goaltending and make this team into a legit contender again, in my view.
Yeah, I want to double down on that. Sydney Rossman really needs to step up her play. She had a really tough weekend, 4 goals on 9 shots. Just can't happen. Especially, I know that Yale's a really good offensive team, but it just can't happen. Now, moving on, who's your step-up player of the week?
My step-up player of the week is actually a team, James. It's going to be the women's cross-country team. They just won the MAAC championship. They finished top 10 in all their meets this year, and also their head coach, Carolyn Martin, won MAAC Head Coach of the Year. I mean, a great year for this team, and give them high praise for it.
Okay, well, I'm going to go to field hockey. I'm going to say Dana Barlow. I talked to her about her a little bit earlier on in the show. 2 goals in the Fairfield game, one of them the overtime game winner, helped really kind of solidify Quinnipiac's chance to host a tournament. Later on on the same day, Monmouth would win to close it out and be able to clinch, but she was a big factor in that Fairfield game for Quinnipiac field hockey. And that's going to do it for us on this edition of Bobcat Breakdown. Don't forget to check out our websites, q30television.com and theqbsn.com.
Also, make sure to follow us on Twitter and like us on Facebook. That'll do it for us. I'm Pat Pitts. He's James Anderson.
See you next week, Bobcats.